Hey there, welcome to Fresh. This week is another episode where we talk about film and TV that's streaming and why it's so great. And this today marks our first episode about film. So far, we've been discussing television series, and we've been talking about different platforms such as Paramount Plus, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, Netflix, etc., Hulu, all of that. And some of the series that we've been discussing have been Blind Spotting, Kanan on NBC, I May Destroy You, several other different genres. And one of the things that I have noticed about the series that I've chosen is that a lot of them are led by women of color. So that I think, and it wasn't intentional actually, but I think that was really cool. And if you've missed any of our previous episodes, please do go back and watch the replay because soon they will be moved to our website and you will not be able to watch them here on Instagram. But that being said, let me introduce myself to all of you new followers out there and new watchers. My name is Nia Malika Dixon. I'm a writer, director, and producer here in Los Angeles. And I am originally from Baltimore, and I'm a Black Muslim woman. And I'm a story lover and a storyteller. I've won several awards for some of the stories that I've written. And I'm very passionate about storytelling because I do believe that it is a way that we as people connect to each other and learn about each other. If you've seen me speak before, you've probably heard me cite my favorite verse from the Quran as a Muslim woman, that we've been made into different nations and tribes to learn from one another. And I do believe that storytelling is a way that we do that. And as a storyteller and a creator, I started this broadcast so that I could not only get to talk about my favorite thing, which is stories, but also to discuss several ways that each of these projects is top tier storytelling, whether it's through character development or all of the things that make storytelling great on the film and TV platform. And that is so that independent creators like myself who are out there who want to create top tier storytelling for TV and film can get insight and ideas from those projects that are already doing it. And to be honest, this is how I got started. When I first moved to LA back in 2005, the first thing I did was, of course, apply to film school, but thank goodness I didn't get in because I'm self-taught. And actually I did get into one of my programs for screenwriting where I was promptly told by one of my professors that I needn't be in the program because of the fact that my script was already ready to be shot. So that being said is the reason why I do these broadcasts, because you don't necessarily need film school. You don't necessarily need a rigorous program if you're very good at learning on your own. And this is a fun way to do it. And this week we are talking about the first film in our series, The Green Knight, which I'm super excited about because it was so beautiful. And I just want to say at the top of this broadcast, I really loved the film. And I do believe that if it would have been marketed more toward someone like moi, I probably would have seen it a lot sooner. I actually just watched it this past week when A24 was streaming it online. And I jumped on the opportunity to watch it. And thank goodness I have a giant screen TV because I do believe that film is best experienced on a big screen. I'm not knocking small screens. I'm just saying that you get a bigger impact when it comes to film when it's on a big screen. So let's just jump right into The Green Knight. I definitely want to say it was very beautiful. It was just so beautifully done. Like visually, I could gush about how beautiful it looked. The scenery, the landscapes, the colors, the lighting, the costumes. Oh, it was just gorgeous. It was gorgeous. And that is so important for us as an audience, as a viewer, to help transport us to another world, because that is what film does. It transports you to another world, another time, another place, and you're following these characters on their journey. And yes, Dev Patel is beautiful. I'm just going to say that. But there was so much more beauty to behold, not just the way the actors looked, but also in the language that they spoke. You know, the tones. Oh, I could just go on and on. The music was beautiful. For all five senses, it was just a very beautiful film. Now, with regard to story, I am someone who is not a huge fan of classical stories. And this is a classic Arthurian tale. Unlike my daughter, who is a fan, she just obsesses over these kinds of stories. I'm someone who loves stories. So I just was like, okay, show me what you got. And sure enough, I totally fell in love with this presentation. It is a quest, a story of a quest, and without giving away too much, and of course you guys know what the story is, we're following Sir Gawain. I hope I'm saying his name right. It was pronounced differently in the film, but on his quest. And it was a quest that was initiated by supernatural forces, and I'm going to say by his mother. And if you know the story of Gawain, his mother was Morgan Le Fay, and I think that it was beautiful that Dev Patel and Sarita Chaudhary were cast as mother and son, because the story is so universal, and these actors were so brilliant at what they've done with conveying the story, with the range of emotion, just beautiful. And you get lost in the story from the moment that you meet Gawain. He's someone that you can root for. He's young and impetuous, but also eager to please, and he's a member of King Arthur's court. And hey, welcome to the broadcast. And he is definitely a character that I sympathized and empathized with, because as someone in the audience, you want to follow along with someone on their journey. That's the whole point of a story. And this quest was so full of emotional upheaval. It was full of tests of mettle. It was a spectacular display of what a moral journey is, and as a metaphor for life. And if you like adventure stories, oh my God, you're in for a treat. If you haven't seen The Green Knight, you definitely don't want to pass this up. It was an adventure from start to finish, and we got to follow Gawain on his journey from this young, impetuous, a potential knight, because he wasn't a knight yet, and he kept reiterating that at the beginning. But also, that's a metaphor for us, as you know, whatever it is that you as a person aspire to become, to step into that and embrace that journey and accept that you are who you want to be before you are eventually that thing, because it makes it possible. It makes it real. So even though at the beginning of his journey he kept saying, no, I'm not a knight, I'm not a knight, that was the whole purpose of the quest, was for him to discover that he truly is a knight, and for him to come face to face with himself on this solo journey that was full of adventure, full of monsters, full of peril, from being waylaid by the trickster guy who robbed him at the beginning, to meeting up with a ghost, and eventually meeting up with this mysterious nobleman whose castle he found himself in, and face to face with many different moral dilemmas that proved not only to us as the audience, but more importantly to him as an individual, who he was. Now that's the story, and the way that it was beautifully crafted. I could go on about the weaving of the tale, because it was just like perfect. It was seamless, the way from start to finish. We meet him on his quest. We follow him on his journey from, like I said, the robber who waylays him, to the giants that he sees in the forest, and there's a moment where you're thinking to yourself, is this his imagination? What's really going on? And he has someone who's accompanying him on the journey, and that was this magical little fox whom I, speculate is his mother. So when you watch the film, you are not going to be in a typical story. This is fantasy adventure. And if you're expecting something other than that, you're going to be disappointed. But if you love a good story, you're going to be sucked in right away because of how visually stunning these images are. From the Green Knight when he enters upon the knights at the round table, to the challenge that Gawain takes up. And oh my God, when he takes the sword, Excalibur, that was one of the most emotional and exciting moments, and that marks the beginning of his journey. And the way that the story is told, it's full of mystery, but it's also full of self-reflection on Gawain's part. And there's magic, and I'm someone who doesn't like to give the story away, but I will tell you this: from start to finish, you're on an adventure that's worth going on. And the characters are not the main, they're not the main part of the story. The only character that is the main part of the story is Gawain. And you as an audience, you are Gawain on this journey. And if you don't see yourself in Gawain and reflect on the different tests that he has to come up against, and see yourself in the adventure of, like, for example, when he's hungry and it's raining and it's cold and he doesn't know what to do, he has nothing to eat, and he starts eating these mushrooms on the ground, and the first thing I think is, oh my God, those are poisonous, what are you doing? And then immediately he starts vomiting, and it's like, you can see yourself in this character. Like, if you were in his place, what would you do? What would you feel? How would you go up against these different tests? And one of my most favorite motifs from this journey that he goes on, this quest, is when he's in the house of this mysterious woman, and he's faced with this challenge of what he should do. And not only is it very mysterious, but it's also one of those moments where, is he talking to himself or is he actually talking to this woman? And there's a moment where he says something like, well, because she asks him to go and fetch something for him out of the water, and he's like, so what are you going to give me for it? And she's like, why would you ever ask me that? And I couldn't help but think, as the person who's a storyteller, is this Gawain like chastising himself for doing what he's obviously imitating what the person who robbed him was doing to him. So it's like, there are so many different ways that his experience comes back to him in the form of self-reflection through his interactions with these characters, through each different challenge that he faces, and to ultimately come up against with the one final challenge with the Green Knight at the end. But the fact that he definitely goes on this quest shows his honor from the beginning, because he could have been somebody who was like, yeah, right, I'm not going back to fight this Green Knight, so he can chop off my head. Oh my God, are you kidding? But he does it because he thinks of himself as somebody who has honor, and ultimately that honor is tested, and he is face to face with the Green Knight at the end. Now, one thing I do want to say about this film that is just so perfect, it was just so beautiful, the way that 2 times in the story he's given a chance to redo something. And we as the audience are not sure if the moment was him reflecting on what he could do and then do something differently, or that's the connection. I think I'm back. But that question of whether or not you're left with, is this reality or is it magic? That's, I think, something that's worth noting, and it was beautifully done. But ultimately, one of my favorite sequences is at the end, where there's almost zero dialogue, and we get to see one of those moments play out. And ultimately, we are face to face with the goal, and that is to show whether or not he has honor. And ultimately, Gawain does. And I'm not ruining it for you. Just know that he does from the beginning. He has honor. But I am going to encourage you to watch the film. I definitely want to watch it again and again. It was one of those kinds of films that's beautiful, and the experience itself is definitely going to bring out so many different responses and reactions upon second and third viewings, I'm sure. And if you haven't seen it, please do go watch it. You will not be disappointed. That being said, that is my take on the first film of our series, The Green Knight. It was beautifully acted. It was, impeccably shot. The music was amazing. The visuals were beautiful. You will not be disappointed. And ultimately, it is a film that definitely lives up to what I believe film should do, which is transport you to another world and stun you with visuals and audio and emotion and make you think. And so definitely take a look. I'm so curious as to know what you as the audience thought of The Green Knight, especially those of you who are filmmakers. There was so much controversy on Twitter about The Green Knight. Some people were like, it wasn't great, I was disappointed, but ultimately most of the people that I follow agreed with me, and I guess we have the same taste, that it was beautiful and it was amazing, and you'll love it. So anyways, DM us with your thoughts, what you thought, your comments, your questions about filmmaking, of course. And next week, we're going to discuss yet another film I am so excited to talk about. And in order to find out, just follow us here and stay tuned. I'll see you again next week, same time at 4:30 p.m. Pacific time, live, because I love discussing live. And we will definitely talk more. All right, I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you all have a beautiful week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.